Hello, Abnormal Adventures. Abnormal Adventures. I was working on Wide Open Adventures. Abnormal Investigations. Got another good one for you tonight. I think you're really going to enjoy this one, which it'll be dropping 8 o'clock p.m. I think you're really going to enjoy this one, so let's get into it. I love to take long walks. It is a great form of exercise and also helps me calm down and decompress from the stresses of everyday life. I am 27 now, but started to love long walks at about the age of 14. My favorite time to take these long walks are at night, or at least it used to be. I've had a few creepy things happen on these walks, but what happened this night takes the cake. Me and my friend Jack were 17 and 19. On the weekends, my friend Jack always stayed over at my house. We would work on our cars and watch movies and all of that. Jack also liked getting exercise, so it didn't take too much convincing to get him to go on these long walks with me. I live in the suburbs of Chicago. What a lot of people who are not from the area of Chicago may not know is that if you go outside of Chicago an hour or so in just about any direction, you'll find almost nothing but small, quiet towns surrounded by cornfields. That is exactly what my town was like. So on one of these nights, we decided to go on a long walk. We walked around my subdivision and made our way out to the pitch-black country roads. So far, nothing was out of the ordinary. We were walking, enjoying the cool night air, looking at the stars, talking about our race cars and girls, of course. We actually made it quite a long way away from my house. After walking for about 45 minutes, we began getting tired and decided to turn back. I would guess it was around 12:30 or 1 a.m. at this point. I should also mention that at this time we were actually dating two girls who were sisters. This was back in 2007 when not everyone had a cell phone. So when it got really late, we would use our cell phone to call the house phone. By this time, their parents had usually fallen asleep, so we could chat with our girlfriends without the parents getting pissed at us. Everything was going how just about all of our nights had gone. I should explain that this road has almost nothing on it, just the occasional country home very spread apart from each other. And again, it's almost all cornfields, except for one part, where there are some woods, not quite large enough to call a forest, but somewhat heavily wooded. There is also a small creek that runs through the property and underneath the street, back out through the other side of that creek that Jack and I were walking on. And on this piece of property there is a creepy old white house. I do not know what it was that made this house so creepy, but I can genuinely say that even before this incident ever happened, I also got a bit of a vibe from it. However, not enough of the vibe to stop me from street racing in front of the several times and up and down this road. I know, stupid. I know. But I was a high schooler with an odd obsession for fast cars, so a lot of people from school wanted to race me. Since this was such a flat road and was in the middle of nowhere, it's usually where we got it done. Back to this night, though. Jack was on the phone with his girlfriend. We began to come up on the part of the road where the small creek ran underneath the road. Everything seemed normal. Then the night took a swift turn for the worst. Suddenly, a creature came out of the water and stood no less than 2 feet from me, with no sound, with no water movement or splashing, with absolutely nothing, like it slithered out like a snake. There were small ripples in the water. It was like it didn't exist 1 second and the next it did. And it emerged right next to me. For a moment I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I turned to my friend who was on my right with this thing on my left. Jack had stopped speaking entirely and was just frozen looking at this creature just past me. He stood completely still as if he also didn't know what to do. The phone still at his ear, just typing this back out sends goosebumps all over my body. The creature was like nothing I've ever seen before, even in the movies. It seemed to be solid white and bright, but it was not glowing. It was looking up at the top of it, and all I saw was a face, or what should have been a face, but it seemed to be completely featureless. I am 6 feet tall, and had to look up at this thing, so it must have been at least 7 feet tall as well. It was also quite big around, almost egg-shaped. Oddly, and though, this creature didn't move at all. It was just there, for what seemed like an eternity but could have only been 3 to 5 seconds. Then simultaneously, we both took off. Without saying a word, simply sprinting as fast as we could. As we were sprinting, I did turn back and, still running at full speed, and looked. I saw the thing go back into the water just as it had came out, with no movement of any kind, the body almost as if it were floating, but not gracefully the way you might imagine. Jack and I both stopped when we came to the corner where my subdivision began. Completely unsure what we had just saw, we turned back and headed to the strangest part of the town. It was the wooded area, and that's where we heard the strangest sound we've ever heard. It did not sound anything like an animal, almost a mix between a growl, a howl, and a moan all in one. Again, without words, we both began sprinting all the way back to my house. When we got there, we both were at a loss for words. We decided to jump in his car with me driving, since I was faster driver, to try to see something, anything. With high beams on, partly wanting to find out who was messing with us, we thought this might have been it. We were both, and still are, big athletic guys. We were trying to rationalize what we had just seen, telling each other it must be some twisted person who was about to get their butt beat, since we had both did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai kickboxing, and we wanted to teach them a lesson for messing with us because it had really scared us. But nothing, no sign of anything at all. We turned around and found an officer out on patrol. We flagged the officer down and let him know what had just happened and that someone should check it out. We didn't file a report or anything, but we did see the officer drive off in that direction. However, I do not believe they found anything. Given the context of the story, I should mention that neither of us were drunk or anything like that. We were just on a regular midnight walk. Whatever this thing was, we're not sure what it was, but I do know that whenever I looked out my window one night into a cornfield adjacent of our house, I saw it standing there looking at me from the cornfield. And it gave me this slow, odd wave, like it was letting me know it was watching me. So I tried one more walk one evening with my friend again, but we could hear it walking in the cornfields beside us. And as we was coming back, because it had scared us and we could not finish our walk, we was headed back to the house, something whispered from the corn, "It's time to pick the corn." And we ran to the house. We never did walk out there anymore. We started driving into town, walking the track, and I was never outside at dusky dark around the cornfield. And to this day, I catch myself scanning the cornfield when I look out my window to see if it's still out there. I know it is. I just can't see it. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. Pretty good encounter there. Pretty wild. I don't know that I would have went back and tried to find it the way they did, but lucky they got out of there, especially being on foot like that. And sounds like it was a predator, maybe an ambush predator, and they were just lucky to escape that it didn't pull them down into the water. Maybe them being athletic might have saved them. It might have thought two of them would have been too much of a fight for it. I'm not sure, but what do you guys think? Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, keep your head on a swivel and don't be something's dinner.